Hey everybody, it's Paul from Alexander Knife Sharpener and Laser Engraving. So before we get into this video, I wanted to show you something real quick. I did use it briefly in this video, but I wanted to talk to you about this product here. This is a Miko duster or air blower. Some people call them canned air or canless air. These things are fantastic. I actually have a couple of these around my shop. This one was sent to me by Ken from Gochifix, who is the person who always gives us the fantastic deals on the digital microscopes. He has a really great deal going on this Miko air duster, so I figured I would show it to you right here in the beginning. I use these for all kinds of things. So in this particular video, doing the pruners, I used it after I derusted them and then washed them off. I used it to blow all the water off. But I use these in my shop constantly. I'll just kind of show you a couple things real quick. It has multiple levels, so it's variable speed. That's the highest. So it has four levels of variable speed. I like that the cap locks in place, so you can put the cap on and then turn it, and it locks in place. It has an in and an out. And the reason for that is you can use this to deflate things like inflatable toys or rafts and things like that. It actually comes with a really nice set of different attachments for it, different pieces for like inflating and deflating different things. It comes with a charger. They give you a couple nice brushes for helping dust things off. I use this constantly. When I go to clean off my table over here, I will use it to blow the dust out of all the gear. I use it in my 3D printer. I use it for my lasers when I have to clean the dust lines that take the dust out of the house. I sometimes like to get in here and blow extra when I turn that on, and I'll get in there and just blow all the dust right out the line so it goes outside and clears it out. I've used this to blow the floor in here. It's that powerful. So I will put this on high and open the garage doors and literally just blow all the junk that accumulates in the shop right out the door. It works really great also for cleaning out your car. They're just awesome. Prior to having these, I often used compressed air, but this is really nice because you're not restricted to anything. You don't have any cords. You don't have any things like that holding you back. And having a variable speed one is really nice. Sometimes you don't want it blowing at maximum power. You want it blowing at minimum power. So I'll put the links in here to this. He gave us a discount code again, and I will put that in there in case any of you are interested in getting a Miko blower for your shop. All right, getting ready to sharpen and clean up and kind of refurbish a pair of Corona Pruners here. These are one of my favorite to work on. These and Felcos are my two favorite because you can see these look absolutely terrible, but they're so well made. They come out just beautiful. With a little bit of work, you can derust them, polish them up, sharpen them, and they are great. And when people buy good quality pruners like Felcos and Coronas, these things can practically last them a lifetime if they just take care of them. So we're going to take these apart. I always take them apart. You'll see some people out there like, no, don't take them apart. I take them apart. I think it's the best way. You can really see what's going on in there. Now these are interesting because they have an internal spring as opposed to most of the other pruners you'll see which have an external spring on the outside. These actually have no visible spring because it is internal. So keep that in mind when you're taking these apart. Internal spring on Coronas. I got my magnetic bowl here for parts. I'm going to drop my nut on there and I'll show you. There's our spring. So see the internal spring there. These are pretty rusty and I want to clean these up, make them look better, make them run better. So these are going to go into a jar of deruster. I'm just going to bring the jar over here. So I like to use these barber jars. I've shown them before. They're great when you have parts. You can just drop them in here, and then you can also put your pruners in. And these are going to sit in here for, probably about a half hour. I'll check them in about a half hour, but that's about usually all it takes. It doesn't take usually much longer than a half hour, but I'll come back to them and then polish them up, lube them up, sharpen them, and we'll go on from there. Okay, back to our pruners. They have been soaking long enough. These are our Coronas that we're doing for a client. They were pretty rusty, so I showed you, I took them apart. I put the parts into a barber comb sterilizer. Now we've converted, thanks to Evapo-Rust, all the rust. It turns like a dark grayish black, but it's no longer rust at this point. Now, you could just dry it off, lubricate it, and leave it that dark gray, or you can polish that gray off. Either way is fine. I typically tend to polish it off because they look really nice. And you can rinse these in water once you've done this. Is totally safe to do because you're going to lube them up anyway. So I'm just going to give these a quick wash, and then I will show you how I polish them. Simple little water sprayer, and I'm just taking any Evapo-Rust off of there, or you can just run to a sink. Either's fine. Here's another place where these little Miko blowers come in very handy. So now that I've de-rusted this and cleaned it, I want to make sure I have all the water out of all the little crevices in there. These things come in super handy, and they're nice because it's cordless. You don't have to worry about a compressor. I just turn this on, and you can see I'm blowing all the water out. This one has multiple speeds. Get my other part, same thing, blowing the water out. Okay, so now I got all my water blown out, and now I'm gonna polish these up and take off any residual rust that I might have missed and get the black kind of gray stuff left behind from the Evapo-Rust off. These are gonna look really nice after this. Simply just take a cheap Chinese 220 radial disc on a Dremel. It's all you need. You don't have to go fast. 10,000 RPMs, 15,000. Go with your metal, and you can see how beautifully these clean up. Just go right along your metal grain there. It literally takes seconds. And you can knock all that black gray off if you want it off. You can leave it if you want to leave it. It's not a problem either way. It's still going to have a little bit of a dark gray look to it. But for the most part, I take all that off. There's a little bit of residual rust I see back here that it missed. Just getting in there and knocking that off. The other nice thing about knocking it off and hitting it with the 220, it does give it a nice smooth feel again. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a roughness if you don't give it that polish afterwards. This gives it a very nice machined and smooth polished feel to the metal. That looks good. I'll show you the difference side by side. You can see it's a pretty big difference, but very easy. Once it's been in there and the rust has been removed, you can see how quickly that it just polishes right up. Knocks that stuff right off. And gonna make these Coronas look like they're much newer or brand new. And same thing in here on the anvil side. Just get in there, clean it up, go with your metal grain. You can't miss the grain, it's very visible. Now for me, my favorite thing to use on gardening gear is Gear Hugger Eco to prevent any rust in the future. I have found that to be the very best stuff. My wife is notorious for leaving her gardening gear outside and then it gets all rusty. And it will rust fast. It only takes a day. If you leave it outside once and it rains or gets a little humidity over nighttime, it will rust and look like these did when they came in here. Gear Hugger will stop that from happening and prevent it from happening even if they leave them outside. It's one of the reasons I love it. So the main thing when you put these back together, you want to make sure that you have the spring inside of that area because of that internal spring. As I showed before, it's kind of hidden in there, and that's what gives this its spring tension. But we still need to sharpen these. So we're going to sharpen this real quick before we do anything else. And then I'm going to lube up inside there, and then we're going to treat the outside with the Gear Hugger. My absolute favorite way to sharpen pruners is on the twice as sharp. You want to set your angle. These have a very high angle, not uncommon to be up around 30, 35. But the main thing you want to do, you want to make sure that your base and your tip are hitting very close, if not the same exact spot. And that will give you a nice even bevel. And to do that, you're going to be at a bit of a weird angle. So you'll see I might have to keep adjusting this so that wherever I'm hitting here, and I usually eyeball it. I've done it so long, but I have seen some people will draw on there. I feel like that's good. Yeah, somebody tried to sharpen these on something else, I can tell. It's got some weird marks on them. But I'm going to clean these up and get a nice even edge on here. And that looks good. And I have a nice burr on there. Even though I don't love some of the marks that are on there from before, doesn't matter. Now I'm just going to do a very light honing. That's it. Just a couple passes. We have a beautiful new edge. Nice even bevel across that whole thing. Now on the inside of these, I usually like a little white lithium grease. On the inside of these, I typically like to put a little white lithium grease. It repels water. That was a lot. I'm going to remove a lot of that, but I just wanted to make sure that's well in there on both of these. And on that spring side, there's a whole piece of rag. Now we can get our other parts out. The main bolt was a little rusty, so we threw that in the Evapor Rust. And same thing, I'll just clean that up a little bit. I'm going to just steal a little of that grease, that white grease from inside here, and put it around the bolt. Alright, so then our bolt, it goes through, and then there's a slot where it will slip into on the other side. Just make sure you have your spring all the way in before you put your lock washer on. And then I can start tightening that down. And then important that you just test them, because you can see they're not opening. These have that, like I said, an internal spring. And it should be opening and closing just fine. And you'll find that happy medium. And then you can also check to make sure that your lock is working. Okay, so we have a very worn safety here. There's not enough plastic there for it to catch. When this pushes in, it's actually worn that down, so it's not catching. And when this is out, it should be going by. Now I can try and build that layer up a little bit with some epoxy and see if we can get that safety working again. But yeah, that's the problem there. I'm sure that is a part that we can probably order if we needed to, or if the client wants to order it. Okay, so I put a tiny bit of UV resin on here and then bonded it with the light. And it's on there nice and hard, and now you can see these are staying shut. That's just from safety wear. But I am going to recommend that they might want to just replace that part. You can usually get parts for all Coronas and Felcos, no problem, online. But that might hold for them. You know, I've had very good success using UV resin for repairs for plastics. It's very strong stuff. It stays on, doesn't tend to shear off, and we'll see if that works for her or not. But it's definitely a good, at least a temporary fix if they have to replace that safety at some point. Some people never replace them, throw a piece of rubber band on there or whatever, you know, no big deal. But so far, that's my fix for that. You can see I cleaned up the handles. Everything's nice and clean here. Now I'm just going to do my gear hugger treatment. I did remove my burr. Sometimes I'll cut a piece of cardboard or some branches if I want to go out in my garden and just test it. These are cutting great. Now what I'm going to do is just treat them with some anti-rusting gear hugger. And how I do it is very simple. I've shown this many times. I just simply spray it on and then brush it. Tiny bit. It doesn't need a ton. It just needs a little bit to dry on there. You can leave them to just kind of dry for a few hours, and then you're good to go. New one. This is the brush I typically use for gear hugger. And like I said, it doesn't need a ton, just a tiny little bit. So I'm just literally gonna put a little dot, just like that. And then I'm just gonna brush it on all the metal parts. Nice thin brushing, and let that air dry. And then it will have a very nice anti-rusting protective coating on there that I wouldn't say forever. It lasts a really long time. I have put this on bicycle chains that I've left the bikes outside for like a whole season, all winter. I do this for, I have two bikes that I put under a cover, but every season when I pulled off, the bike chains would be all rusted up. I use this gear hugger on them, just like this, a nice light coating, and those chains, they never rust since I started using gear hugger like this. And that's it, just a little brushing. If you think it's a little too much, you can wipe it off a little bit. Just give it, it just needs a nice thin coating on there. And then just let that air dry. If you want to speed it up, you can blow it a little bit. I've blown it with heat guns before too. That'll speed the process up. a tiny bit, but that is how I treat pruners.